I sold my skincare company for $62 million. The call came at 8:23 on a Thursday morning in March. Miss Park, the acquisition is complete. The funds have been transferred to your account. I had to sit down. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. $62 million. For a company I'd started in my garage in 1989 with $3,000 and a dream of creating natural skincare that actually worked. I was 58 years old. My back ached from years of standing over mixing bowls and production lines. My fingers were permanently stained from plant extracts and essential oils, but I'd done it. 35 years of early mornings at farmers markets, late nights perfecting formulas, weekends teaching workshops, everything had led to this moment. The buyer was a European beauty conglomerate that had been pursuing me for 3 years. They wanted my proprietary formulas, my loyal customer base, my reputation for clean, effective products. I'd held out, negotiating every detail until the offer was too good to refuse. $62 million. Enough to retire comfortably, help my 2 sons with their lives, maybe finally take that pottery class I'd been postponing for decades. I needed to tell Michael, my husband of 33 years, my partner, the man who'd supported me when I was selling face cream at craft fairs and farmers markets. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, steady income while I built my dream. He deserved to hear this news in person, not over the phone. I grabbed my purse, the Italian leather one Michael had given me for our 30th anniversary, and headed out. Michael worked from a home office most days, but Thursdays he always went to his company's regional office in downtown Seattle for team meetings. I knew the building well. I'd been there for holiday parties, retirement celebrations. 23rd floor, corner office overlooking Elliott Bay.
The path
The
to
drive
success
took 18
isn't always
minutes.
linear.
I
But
parked
with
in visitor
dedication
parking and
clarity,
practically ran through the
you
lobby.
can navigate any
The elevator
challenge.
seemed to take forever. My heart was pounding. $62 million. We could travel. We could buy that cabin on Whidbey Island we'd talked about. We could finally live instead of just working. The elevator opened on the 23rd floor. I turned right, heading toward Michael's office. I could see his door was slightly open. I was about to knock when I heard it. A woman's voice, low and intimate. "Michael, we need to be more careful. Someone saw us at the hotel last weekend." My hand froze inches from the door. Michael's reply was quiet but clear. "No one who matters. Besides, Jennifer's always too busy with her little face cream business to notice anything." Little face cream business. The words hit me like a slap. I pushed the door open. Michael was sitting on the edge of his desk, facing a woman I recognized. Amber Chen, the marketing coordinator who'd been hired 2 years ago. She was 34, blonde, always perfectly styled. She was standing close to him, her hand on his arm. They both turned. Michael's face went pale. "Jennifer, I didn't know you were coming. What are you doing here?" "I had news," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. "I wanted to share it with you. But I can see you're busy." Amber stepped back quickly. "Mr. Park and I were just reviewing the quarterly presentation. We have a meeting in 10 minutes without the presentation materials open?" I asked, looking at the empty desk. "Without your laptop?" Michael stood up. "Jennifer, this isn't what it looks like. Let me explain." "Explain what exactly?" "How long?" His eyes darted to Amber, then back to me. "How long, Michael?" 4 years, he said quietly. 4 years. I counted backward. Through my mother's death, through our youngest son's wedding, through the time I was in the hospital with pneumonia, and he brought me soup every day. "I'm sorry," he said. "I never wanted you to hurt." "You just didn't want me to know," I corrected. "I should go," Amber said, grabbing her phone. "Mrs. Park, I'm really sorry." "Don't be sorry for me," I said. "Be sorry for yourself. You think you're special? You're just convenient." She left quickly, closing the door behind her. Michael and I stood there, years of marriage between us, suddenly feeling like nothing. "I sold my company," I said. "That's why I came. The deal closed this morning." His expression changed immediately. "Sold it? For how much?" $62 million. I watched his face carefully, watched the shock turn into something else, something calculating. "That's incredible, Jennifer. That's wonderful news. We should celebrate. We need to talk about investment strategies, tax planning. As your husband, I can help manage that kind of money. You've never had to deal with these amounts before. As my husband, I repeated. You mean as the man who just admitted to a 4-year affair? Jennifer, one thing has nothing to do with the other. We're married. That money. Legally, it's community property. We built that company together. Built it together? I started it before we were married. You worked your pharmaceutical job while I was building my business. You contributed exactly nothing to my company. That's not fair, he said. I supported you emotionally. I was there. Being there isn't the same as building something, Michael. But you're right about one thing. We should talk about this. Just not here, not now. Where are you going? Home. I need to think. Jennifer, don't do anything rash. That money belongs to both of us. I walked out without answering. I made it to my car before the tears came. Not sad tears. Angry ones. All those years. All those times he'd called my work a hobby, a little business, something to keep me busy. And now that it was worth millions, suddenly he'd built it too. I drove straight to my lawyer's office. Patricia Nguyen had handled my business contracts for 15 years. She was sharp, thorough, and had been through her own brutal divorce a decade earlier. Jennifer, she said when her assistant showed me in. I was just about to call you. The acquisition paperwork is all filed. Congratulations. Thank you.
In my time leading this department, I've learned that true innovation
Patricia,
often comes
I need
from
to know
unexpected
something.
places.
My company.
It's about empowering
I
your
started
team
it
to
2
explore
years
new
before
ideas.
I married Michael. I never put his name on anything. I paid myself a salary but kept it completely separate. In a community property state like Washington, whose money is the sale proceeds? Patricia leaned forward, studying my face. Given that you started it before marriage with separate funds, maintained complete separation, never used marital assets to fund it, the sale proceeds would likely be your separate property. Michael would have a very difficult time claiming any portion. She paused. What happened? I found out this morning that my husband has been having an affair for 4 years. Minutes after I found out, I sold my company for $62 million. Patricia's expression hardened. Do you have proof of the affair? Not yet, but I can get it. Here's what we do, she said, pulling out a legal pad. First, don't tell Michael any details about the legal status of the sale. Let him think it's community property. Second, we need evidence. Photos, texts, witnesses. Third, we move fast, before he can hide assets or make claims. How fast can you get proof? I thought about Amber's nervous departure, about Michael's secretary who'd given me odd looks at the last holiday party, about 4 years of suspicious late meetings and weekend conferences. Give me 2 weeks, I said. Those 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I started with Michael's secretary, Laura. I'd always liked her. I asked her to coffee, just the two of us. Laura, I said gently, I know something's going on. I'm not angry at you, but I need the truth. She was quiet for a long time, stirring her latte without drinking. Mrs. Park, everyone in the office knows. They've been together since the company retreat in Maui 4 years ago. They take long lunches together every Tuesday at the Pink Door. They've gone on business trips together. Last summer, I saw them at a restaurant in Bellingham when Mr. Park said he was at a conference in Portland. Thank you for being honest, I said. I hired a private investigator that afternoon. His name was David Martinez, former FBI, recommended by Patricia. I felt ridiculous at first, like I was in some TV drama. But David was professional and kind. Miss Park, you're not being paranoid. You're being smart. Protect yourself. He gave me a small recording device. Washington is a 2-party consent state, so you can't secretly record conversations. But if you're part of the conversation, you can record it legally. Keep notes of everything he says. David followed Michael and Amber for 10 days. The evidence was damning. Photographs of them entering a condo in Fremont. Apparently Michael had rented it using our joint credit card, though I'd never seen the statements because he handled our finances. Receipts from romantic dinners at expensive restaurants. Hotel charges in Vancouver, Portland, and San Francisco, all during times Michael said he was traveling alone for work. But the video sealed it. David caught them on camera kissing in the parking garage of Michael's office building. His hand on her face, her arms around his neck, in a way that made my stomach turn because I remembered when he used to hold me like that. While David gathered evidence, I started digging into our finances. Michael had always handled the money. I had access to the accounts, but I'd trusted him to manage everything. Now I looked closely. What I found made me sick. Large cash withdrawals every month, charges to jewelry stores that had never resulted in gifts for me, a credit card I didn't know existed, with charges to luxury hotels and expensive restaurants across 3 states. Plane tickets to Hawaii, purchased for 2 people. During a week, Michael said he was at a training conference and I was at a trade show in Chicago. There was more. I discovered that Michael had taken out a line of credit against our house without telling me. $150,000, supposedly for home improvements that had never happened. When I looked into it, I found that the money had been transferred to an investment account that was losing money in a risky startup that, when I researched it, turned out to be owned by Amber's ex-boyfriend. I brought this to Patricia. "He forged your signature on the equity line documents?" she asked, looking at the papers I'd brought. "That's fraud. That's a federal crime. What do you want to do with this information?" "I want to use it," I said. "I want to make sure he can't touch my company sale money. I want a divorce, and I want him to understand exactly what he's losing." On day 13, Michael came home early. I was in the kitchen, making dinner like I had thousands of times before. Stir-fry vegetables and chicken, the meal plan we'd followed for years because of his cholesterol. "Jennifer, we need to talk," he said. "About what?" "About the money from the sale. You've been acting strange, distant. I think we should sit down with a financial advisor together. Make a plan for the $62 million. It's a lot of money. And frankly, you've never had to manage this kind of sum before. I have experience with investments through my work. I should be involved." "You want control of the money," I said,
I'm glad you're
not
here to
looking
learn
up from
about
the
this
stove.
new initiative.
Not control,
I'm
partnership.
confident it will bring
We're married,
positive
Jennifer.
changes to
What's
our
yours is
community.
mine. That's how it works. Is it? I turned to face him. "Is that what you were thinking during your 4-year affair with Amber?" His face went white. "How did you—" "I have evidence, Michael. Photos, videos, financial records, witness statements. I know about the condo in Fremont. I know about the trips to Vancouver. I know about the equity line you took out on our house, forging my signature to invest in your mistress's ex-boyfriend's failing startup. You've been spying on me? That's what you're focused on? Not the affair, not the fraud, but the fact that I found out? Jennifer, you're overreacting. Amber and I, it's complicated, but it doesn't change our marriage. And that money from your company, legally it's community property. I have rights to half of it." "Actually," I said, "you don't. I started that company before we were married. I built it entirely with my own money and my own work. The sale proceeds are my separate property. You have no legal claim to any of it." His expression darkened. "You've been talking to a lawyer." "I have, and I'm filing for divorce on grounds of adultery. I have enough evidence to make this very unpleasant for you if you fight it." "You can't be serious." "After 33 years? I'm completely serious. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign a fair settlement, or I'm going to press charges for the forged signature on the equity line documents. That's fraud, Michael. That's a federal crime. You could go to prison. You're threatening me?" "I'm protecting myself. Something I should have done years ago." "Where are you going?" "To my lawyer's office, then to stay with Jason. I'm sure our son will be interested to hear about your behavior. You're turning our children against me. I'm telling them the truth. What they do with that is up to them." I walked upstairs and packed a suitcase. Michael followed me, alternating between pleading and threatening. I ignored him. As I loaded my car, he stood in the driveway. "You'll regret this, Jennifer. You think you can just take everything and walk away? I'll fight you. I'll fight you for every penny." I looked at him. Really looked at him. When had he become this person? Or had he always been this way and I'd just been too busy building my business to notice? "You do what you have to do, Michael. So will I." The divorce proceedings were brutal. Michael hired an aggressive attorney who tried every angle. They claimed he'd provided emotional support that allowed me to focus on my business. They argued his steady income had given me the freedom to take entrepreneurial risks. They tried to claim his pharmaceutical knowledge had helped me develop my products, which was laughable since my company specifically used natural ingredients to avoid pharmaceutical chemicals. But I had David's evidence. The photographs. The credit card statements showing thousands of dollars spent on jewelry I never received, dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in cities I'd never visited. The text messages that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. And I had the forged signature. Patricia leveraged that beautifully. When we presented the evidence of fraud to Michael's attorney, things changed quickly. We didn't press criminal charges, Patricia explained in a meeting with both lawyers present, as long as Michael is reasonable about the settlement. Reasonable meant I kept the $62 million from the company sale. Michael kept his retirement accounts and his commissions from his job. We'd split the house sale 50-50 after paying off the fraudulent equity line. Michael would also need to compensate me for the marital funds he'd spent on the affair, roughly $200,000 by my accountant's calculation. Interestingly, Amber broke up with Michael 6 weeks into the proceedings. Apparently dating a married man was exciting. Being associated with someone accused of fraud, facing a messy divorce, was not. The divorce was finalized 8 months after that morning in his office. I was 59 years old, single for the first time since I was 25, and wealthier than I'd ever imagined. My sons, Jason and Ryan, were devastated by their father's behavior. They supported me completely, which meant Michael's relationship with his children and grandchildren became strained. That was his choice, not mine. With the divorce behind me, I had to figure out what to do with my life. $62 million is a lot of money, but it's also a lot of responsibility. I hired a financial advisor, a woman named Sandra Kim, who specialized in helping women manage sudden wealth. Together, we created a plan. $20 million went into conservative investments, bonds, index funds, real estate trusts. $15 million went into a foundation I established to help women start their own businesses, especially in the natural products industry. I called it the Fresh Start Foundation, and I worked with Ryan, who'd always been interested in nonprofit work, to run it. $10 million I kept liquid for living expenses and personal investments, and $17 million I used for living.
I want to share a story about how
I bought a small villa in
clear vision
Provence,
can truly
not rented,
change the trajectory
bought
of your career.
a stone house with lavender
10 years
fields
ago, right
and
here
a
in this
workshop
office.
where I could continue experimenting with skincare formulas just for fun, not for profit. I spent 6 months learning French and making soap with local ingredients. I took that pottery class I'd been postponing. Turns out I'm terrible at pottery, but I love it anyway. I paid off both my sons' mortgages and set up education trusts for my 4 grandchildren, the kind that would pay for college but require them to work for anything beyond that. And I started dating. At 59, I wasn't looking for another husband. I'd had one of those, but I discovered I enjoyed companionship without the legal complications. I went on dates with retired professors, artists, a charming French man named Luc, who owned a vineyard near my villa. None of them were serious. That wasn't the point. The point was living my life on my terms. 18 months after the divorce, I was back in Seattle visiting Jason and his family. We went to dinner at a new restaurant in Capitol Hill, the kind of place Michael always said was too trendy, too expensive. The waiter had just brought our appetizers when I saw him. Michael, sitting at a table across the room with a woman I didn't recognize. She was younger than him, maybe late 40s, not as young as Amber. They were holding hands across the table. He saw me at the same moment. Our eyes met. He looked older, tired. There was a defeated slump to his shoulders that hadn't been there before. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction. Just a mild curiosity about who the woman was, and then a stronger interest in the wine list. "Mom," Jason touched my hand. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, and I meant it. "Let's order a bottle of that Sancerre, the expensive one." We ordered the good wine and the expensive entrees and the dessert that cost $20 but was worth every penny. We laughed and told stories, and Jason showed me pictures of the grandkids on his phone. I didn't look at Michael's table again. Later, as we were leaving, I had to walk past him to get to the exit. He stood up as I approached. "Jennifer," he said awkwardly, "you look well." "Thank you," I said. "I heard about your foundation, the Fresh Start thing. That's good. That's a good use of the money." I almost laughed, still thinking about the money. "I'm doing a lot of things, Michael. The foundation is just one of them." "Right, of course," he gestured to the woman at his table. This is Karen. Karen, this is Jennifer, my ex-wife. Karen looked uncomfortable. I felt a flash of pity for her. She had no idea what she was getting into. Nice to meet you, I said politely. Then to Michael, I hope you're well. I walked out before he could respond. Jason was waiting for me outside. That was gracious of you, he said. I would have said something. I thought about it, I admitted, but the Sancerre was too good to waste the moment being angry. We laughed all the way to the car. That night, lying in the guest room at Jason's house, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the divorce, the money, the new life I'd built. Some people might say I got lucky. That discovering the affair right after the company sale was fortunate timing, that the money made everything easier, and they'd be partially right. The money absolutely made things easier. But lucky? No. I'd worked for 35 years to build something valuable. I'd made smart choices, even when they were hard. I'd trusted my instincts when something felt wrong. And when my world fell apart, I'd picked up the pieces methodically, strategically, and built something better. That wasn't luck. That was life. That was knowing my worth, protecting my work, and refusing to let someone else's betrayal define my future. I fell asleep thinking about my next adventure. Sandra, my financial advisor, had mentioned an organic farming program in New Zealand. 8 weeks, hands-on learning, staying with local farmers. I'd always wanted to learn about sustainable agriculture, maybe incorporate it into the Foundation's mission. At 59 years old, I had all the time in the world. And this time, I wasn't building a business. I was building a life. My life. On my terms. And nobody, not Michael, not anyone, could take that away from me.